Hello again, everyone. Chris Mathieu with Forbidden Knowledge News. We're now only 2 weeks away from the only 7-day, 8-night event of 2020, with over 30 extraordinary speakers presenting unprecedented information that you won't hear anywhere else. This is the Laughlin UFO Mega Conference, February 15th through 22nd in Laughlin, Nevada. It's only 2 weeks away. Today, I'm very happy to welcome author and lecturer William Buhlman. William, welcome. How are you doing today?
Oh, very good.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm looking forward to the conference, looking forward to meeting you and your fascinating presentation, which involves out-of-body experiences, the possibilities of our consciousness, actually communicating and interacting with other entities out there, so many possibilities of projecting our consciousness and the powers of our consciousness. First, I'd like you to tell us a little bit more about yourself. Tell us a little about your background.
Okay, I'm the author of 5 books, mostly on out-of-body experiences. I'm also the trainer at the Monroe Institute for the last 10 years. I've been training people in a 6-day workshop, a residential workshop, how to project their consciousness beyond their body. It's a very intense workshop that deals with all various aspects of out-of-body exploration and multidimensional contact. So we cover a lot of ground in a period of 6 days. My first book was published back in, it's been 24 years ago. So I've been, my entire adult life has essentially been devoted to the subject of out-of-body exploration and various forms of contact.
Now, what got you interested in this subject?
Well, back in the 70s, I had my first out-of-body experience. That's what got me involved. I was not a believer at all in this subject. I wasn't on my radar, but a friend of mine in college had spontaneous out-of-body experience. And I wanted to have the same experience that he was very excited about it. And I began to study the topic and found that there was ways to self-initiate out-of-body experiences that have been written about for 1,000 years, actually, in various literature. And I tried it, and after 24 days of trying, I had my first self-initiated out-of-body experience. And I became hooked on it. It was exciting. It was mind-blowing stuff, and it was changed my whole outlook and viewpoint paradigm of life and my perception of reality. And I began to pursue it wholeheartedly, and it turned into this lifelong 40-year exploration of this.
Now, from what I've heard, attempting to do this is not an easy experience. It takes practice, discipline, and a little preparation, right?
Yes, it does take, it takes practice. It takes, you have to examine your mindset, ideally purge a lot of the fears you may have. It takes some degree of training. That's one of the reasons I do a 6-day workshop. Mindset has a lot to do with it. If you're a fear-based person, you're probably not going to have an easy time with it. You have to take a deep look at yourself, and then you have to learn there's relatively easy techniques to learn, but it takes perseverance and it takes dedication and daily practice. Like I said, it took me 24 days to have my first experience, but they become easier and easier. It's like meditation with intention. That's how I look at it. And I have found it to become a natural part of our existence once we open ourselves up to our own potential. But yes, it does take some effort to have the experience self-initiated. But also keep in mind, and this hasn't talked about a lot, millions and millions of people have spontaneous out-of-body experiences. And matter of fact, it's one of the most common experiences out there, and it's seldom talked about. And most people don't even realize what is happening when they happen, because it's just a temporary separation of consciousness from the body. Most people's experiences are generally very brief, and they don't. But to self-initiate, of course, is the gold standard. Is what many of us try to achieve. Then you have better control. You know what's happening. You know how to control your energy body, and you can really gather a lot of tremendous information about yourself and our universe once you gain control of your state of consciousness during an out-of-body experience.
And I'm wondering if, of course, if it would come easier to some people than it would others. And are there certain, stipulations you have to follow as far as your health, what you're putting in your body, your ability to actually get into a meditative state, things like that?
It's really more about mindset than anything. I stress mindset. Purging fear is absolutely essential. Those who have deep-seated beliefs about, let's just say, the devil and all these things that many of us have been conditioned to believe, which of course are totally false, but it doesn't matter. We've been programmed. Those kind of things are what hinders most people from having the experience. But like I said, I think almost anybody that is open-minded and is willing to do the techniques on a daily basis, just like meditation, half an hour a day, you do a meditation that involves the intention of leaving your body. It's very doable for all people, because remember, we're just visitors here. We're not physical beings. We're only temporarily inhabiting this physical body, and then we leave. And people forget that sometimes. We're not even a biological species. We're a non-physical species, temporarily visiting and using a biological body for a very brief period of time to learn, to experience, and to grow in this physical world. So when you put it in perspective, you realize that having an out-of-body experience is actually a very natural experience. And it's taught, and it's universal. I think I like to stress this. These experiences happen in every culture, every religion. It's documented in almost all the historical texts, these so-called mystical texts. The Bible refers to it. St. Paul talks about, I was in the body or out of the body. I mean, this is a common universal experience that now, in the last 50 years especially, we've learned that we can begin to control it, to self-initiate it and control it, and then obtain the answers for ourselves. And that's what this is about. Obtaining the answers through your own experience about what you are and where you're going. It's incredibly important, because most people don't have a clue where they come from and why they're here and where they're going. Let's face it, 7.7 billion people on the planet. And how many people know where they're going when they die? It's sad, but out-of-body experiences can give you a solid perception and visitation into the realms and dimensions that you will experience. So that's why this is important. Self-knowledge is essential to the evolution of mankind. And this is one of the greatest ways I have found to obtain self-knowledge.
There is so much power that we could have, I believe, from unlocking some of the potential of our consciousness. And I believe that our ancient past, the people from ancient civilizations, they knew how to use a lot more of these powers than we do now. So let's get into what you're going to be presenting at the conference. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, the name of my talk is Multidimensional, Alien Contact, a Multidimensional Experience. And I'm going to talk about the multidimensional nature of the universe, and how when people die, they're not going to heaven, they're going to another dimension. And we know this. I'm going to share information based on 45 years of research that I and others have gathered. There's no speculation here. And talk about the multidimensional nature of life and how all of us are multidimensional. And when we have a near-death experience, or when we die or have an out-of-body experience, what we're actually doing is shifting our consciousness into another dimensional aspect of ourselves. And that's exciting because it opens the door to knowledge, true knowledge, not speculation. And I'm going to talk about all these things, about the multidimensional nature of all life and how we can contact other multidimensional beings face to face, not theoretical, not conjecture. This is face-to-face contact with other beings in other dimensions, and do it in a controlled way. This is breakthrough stuff. This is, I think, groundbreaking, fascinating, mind-blowing stuff that unfortunately is not talked about as much as it should be, because everybody is so fixated on the physical world and matter. Where one of the things that we've learned, and I've learned from 45 years of my experience, is that the universe is multidimensional, and that what all around us, this physical world, is just the epidermis, the very thin epidermis layer of reality. And when we have an OBE, an NDE, or die, what we're doing is shifting inward into the next dimensional space. And unfortunately, out of ignorance, people just call it heaven or some other nebulous term. These are dimensions within dimensions within dimensions. And that's where we reside. That's where we're from. That's what makes this exciting. So I'm going to talk about that aspect, and also a little bit about the comparison of OBEs and alien abduction phenomena that is often reported. For instance, I intend to use John Mack's very excellent book called Abduction as my comparison of the phenomena that John Mack talks about in his book, and what I've written about in one of my books, Secret of the Soul, where I go into detail about all the connecting points of this phenomena that everybody assumes, or many people assume, is strictly a physical phenomena. What if it's not? What if it's a non-physical, or most of these experiences are actually non-physical? Because people don't realize that an out-of-body experience is not an airy-fairy thing. It's when you leave your body, everything to you is just as solid, because you've entered another dimensional space that everything is vibrating at the same level. It's like two airplanes going 600 miles an hour next to one another. They look like they're standing still. The density and vibration of our energy body when we leave our body and the dimension we enter is the same. Things are solid. Many people have out-of-body experiences and don't even realize it initially, that they are out of body, until they realize that the environment has changed. And that's important, because a lot of people don't know about this information. I feel that's because it hasn't been addressed in many of the UFO conferences. So I'm looking forward to sharing my information and knowledge that I and others have gained from 45 years of exploration.
Now, I'd like to ask you one more question before we close out today. As far as you personally, have you had any experiences where you have made contact with some of these interdimensional beings?
Yes, and most people that, yes, I have. And it's happened. We have a tendency to think that in many cases that they are different than us. And now I have found that the universe is teeming with life, non-physical life. The vast majority of sentient beings do not exist in the physical world. They exist in the non-physical. Many of them don't even wish to visit the physical. So yes, when people, I and others have contacted many residents of the other dimensional beings, if you want to call it that. But when you look at it objectively, from my 45 years, I am we all are not physical beings. I and you and all of us are multidimensional, non-physical beings to begin with. That's because that's what our true home is, and that's where we are returning to. So it's contact with non-physical beings is very common during out-of-body experiences, and during near-death experiences, they also occur. The beauty of out-of-body experiences, which makes them, I think, so compelling, is that they're repeatable. People forget that nobody wants to have a near-death experience, but an out-of-body experience can be repeated again and again, and you can observe the same environment and test it. And in other words, you can confirm your own perceptions through repeated explorations of a dimensional space. And this is huge because this is where you gain the knowledge. One experience could be just a weird hallucination, let's say, or a distortion of reality. But repeated experiences, hundreds of them, you get a confirmation and you start to learn the territory and how to maneuver, negotiate responsive, non-physical realities, and even developed, let's just call, contact and even friendships with non-physical beings, which is reported quite commonly with experienced explorers. So yes, and that's one of the things that makes us excited. This is not about beliefs. This is not about theory. This is about each person becoming an explorer and discovering the answers for themselves.
That is fascinating. I am so looking forward to meeting you. I'm hearing more about your presentation and actually getting together with you and doing a full interview with you at the conference. That'll be amazing. Before you head out today, let everyone know if they're looking to find out more about your work, where they can go, website, social media, etc.
My website probably is the best contact for me is astralinfo.org. And on my website, there's lots of free information, how-to guides, how to self-initiate, how to control your experiences. I even included a troubleshooting guide, which I believe I'm the only one out there that tells you how to negotiate different issues and resolve them when you're exploring altered states and out-of-body exploration. So there's a lot of information that's available at astralinfo.org. So I would encourage everyone to check it out and see what you think, and then go from there.
Definitely. Thank you so much again for joining us today, and look forward to meeting you in Laughlin.
Same here. Looking forward to it.
This event is not just a UFO conference. It covers ancient history, consciousness, energy, the paranormal, nature of reality, and so much more. Not only will there be over 30 extraordinary speakers, you're going to get to enjoy a film festival, night sky watch, experiencer groups, optional social meal events, and so much more. Go to Laughlin UFO Mega Conference.com now to get your tickets. I will see you in Laughlin.